It was a dark and stormy night, and Sarah was driving home from a late shift at work. The rain was coming down in sheets, making it almost impossible to see the road in front of her. Suddenly, her car hit a large pothole and started to swerve out of control. Sarah fought to regain control of the car, but it was too late. She crashed into a ditch and the car came to a stop. Shaken but unhurt, Sarah got out of the car and looked around. She was in the middle of nowhere, with no houses or buildings in sight. The rain was still pouring down, and she was soaked to the bone. She tried her cell phone, but there was no signal. Suddenly, she heard a sound coming from the woods. It was a low, guttural growl, and it was getting louder. Sarah's heart raced as she realized that she was not alone. She looked around for a weapon, but there was nothing to defend herself with. The growling turned into snarling, and then she saw it. A creature, unlike anything she had ever seen before, emerged from the trees. It was at least 7 feet tall, with fur as black as the night. Its eyes glowed red, and its fangs were dripping with saliva. Sarah tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She was paralyzed with fear as the creature approached her, its hot breath on her face. She closed her eyes, hoping it was just a nightmare. When she opened them again, the creature was gone. She was alone in the rain, and her car was nowhere in sight. She tried to find her way back to the road, but she couldn't remember which direction she had come from. As she stumbled through the woods, she heard strange noises all around her. Voices whispered her name, branches snapped under unseen feet, and the rustling of leaves was always just behind her. Eventually, Sarah saw a light in the distance. She made her way towards it, hoping it was a house where she could find help. As she got closer, she realized that it was a cemetery. The gate was open, and the light was coming from a mausoleum at the back. Sarah was too scared to turn back, so she went inside. The air was musty and cold, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. She heard footsteps behind her and turned around to see a figure in a hooded robe. Its face was hidden in shadow, but she could feel its cold eyes on her. Suddenly, the figure lunged at her, and Sarah screamed. She woke up in her bed, drenched in sweat. It was all just a nightmare, but as she tried to calm herself down, she noticed something strange. There was a scratch on her arm, and it looked like it had come from something with sharp claws. As she examined it more closely, she heard a low growl coming from outside her window, and she knew that her nightmare was far. Sarah tried to shake off the feeling of dread that was creeping over her. She got out of bed and went to the window, hoping to see something that would ease her mind. But what she saw made her heart race even faster. There, outside her window, was the same creature she had seen in the woods. It was staring at her with its glowing red eyes, and she could see the steam of its hot breath on the glass. She stumbled backwards, trying to find something to defend herself with, but there was nothing in reach. The creature started to scratch at the window, trying to get in. Sarah could see its sharp claws gouging deep grooves in the glass, and she knew that it was only a matter of time before it broke through. She screamed for help, but she knew that no one would hear her. She was alone with this monster. Suddenly, the scratching stopped. Sarah cautiously approached the window, expecting to see the creature staring back at her. But instead, there was nothing. The creature had vanished into the night. For a moment, Sarah thought that she had escaped the nightmare. But then she heard a sound from downstairs. It was the creaking of a floorboard, followed by footsteps. Someone or something was in her house. Sarah realized that she had to escape. She ran to the door, but it wouldn't budge. She tried the windows, but they were all locked. She was trapped. As the footsteps got closer, Sarah felt her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that whatever was coming for her was not human. She could hear its ragged breath and the sound of its claws scraping against the wooden floor. The door burst open, and Sarah saw the figure in the hooded robe. It was carrying a lantern, and she could see its twisted, inhuman face in the flickering light. It was the same creature that had chased her through the woods, and she knew that she was doomed. She tried to fight back, but her blows were useless against the creature's thick fur. It threw her to the ground, and she felt its claws digging into her skin. Sarah knew that this was the end. But just as she was about to lose consciousness, there was a blinding flash of light. The creature howled in pain, and Sarah felt it loosen its grip. She scrambled to her feet and saw that someone had come to her rescue. It was a group of hunters armed with guns and silver bullets. They had been tracking the creature for months and had finally cornered it in Sarah's house. The creature had killed her neighbors and was now after her. Sarah watched as the hunters finished off the creature, sending it back to the hellish dimension it had come from. She realized that she had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, and that she would never forget the terror that had haunted her that night.